so we're still just taking questions.
Two quick ones. Number one, obviously any state agency has a limited ability to do anything, so you have to work in a triage sort of environment. Here in this particular region, we have a very bad problem with the effluent from the lake. We have people who have been tested and shown that just being near the water is literally a death-defying act to live there. So is there going to be an emphasis on testing, on sampling, or are we still under the old government's regime where we can dispense with tests, we can dispense with monitoring, we can dispense with scientists? I know we've heard language that says there's going to be a new emphasis on science, and I'm wondering, are you seeing that as a practical matter, giving new resources to do the monitoring, to do the testing? That's question one. Question two is an easy one. We are relying quite a bit, it seems, on industry to provide results in testing. I think that's a very interesting idea, and I'm wondering, has that been scientifically tested to be accurate and effective? Because one would suspect that allowing an industry to not only self-regulate, but to do the self-monitoring, it would seem to stretch credulity just a little. And I'm wondering, is there any tests or any science that we can say that this is a logical and a reliable resource for testing? So, new emphasis on research? Is there new testing? Is there new scientists? Or are we still suffering, with you, a real constrained environment of ability to run tests? Thank you.
I'll take the first one. So
thanks.
Certainly you've heard that the agency has hired a new chief science officer.
I heard that. That's wonderful.
Okay, so Tom Frazier's the new chief science officer. He's from UF, and he's started at the beginning of this month. So he will be directing the activities of a new blue-green algae task force. So they have the members, they've been announced, and I don't have a schedule yet of meetings when they'll but that task force's goal would be to help steer where research would occur. So obviously we're looking at what type of nutrients, resources could be abated, what are the most practical, economic ways of abating those nutrient sources to get a handle on the soonest. Given the scope of the issue, that's not going to be quick.
Right.
Anyway,
sampling can be done quicker, though.
The point is that they will be helping to try to direct that. The second issue that we've heard mentioned that is a concern for all of us are health effects. So the task force would also be looking at trying to address some of the questions about how can we deal with the high level of uncertainty that goes along with the potential for adverse human impacts and wildlife impacts related to the toxins that can be produced
Thank
by
you so much.
bacteria. So
the other question about relying on industry to self-monitor?
My impression, and I'll just say this is my impression, is that we do not rely heavily on self-monitoring in the state of Florida. We have our own monitoring that occurs, and we use data by other providers, including the water management districts. It's part of it. We include it. I mean, collecting more data is better than discarding data.
Yeah.
So, but we're not relying heavily on industry-derived data to make our management decisions.
Okay, thank you.
But it'd still be good to have. So why don't we start off by name and affiliation.
My name is Drew Martin. I'm with the Sierra Club here in Martin and St. Louis. So there's a lot of new construction, road construction, and people remove a lot of the native plants and soils, which is capturing a lot of the runoff. And in particular, we see a lot of sedimentation in the water bodies, and this is a huge problem. Like sedimentation is killing seagrasses because of the turbidity. So how much focus do you have on these construction projects, particularly, I know, like the Canary Highway project, when you see that you're going to get all these additional chemicals from runoff from the cars and the sedimentation in these projects, and do you focus on opposing 404 dredge and fill permits, for instance, that might increase water runoff and reduce water quality standards, and is that one of your focuses?
Well, this is going to sound very bureaucratic, but I mean, so you're talking to the water quality standards program. We have a very limited role in that. main role would be sometimes we're asked by the people doing the environmental resource permitting for the area, what are the outstanding Florida waters in the watershed, whether they're class 1 or class 2 waters, so we would give them that information as a standards permit. Now there's other people, you know, the environmental resource permitting, they would be taking a look at making sure that any stormwater treatment facilities that are being built for those road construction, they would meet those requirements. For example, if there was an outstanding Florida water that has higher design criteria to protect the North Desert. So that's kind of our limited role in that. But as far as the environmental resource permitting program, they would be looking at that. And a lot of times that's been delegated to the water management. The water management district is doing that.
Well, I just want to follow up because there was a meeting of the South Florida Water Management District last week, and I think it was the head of water quality for EPA was one of the speakers. And one of the questions was from the water governing board was, do you monitor the water in the retention ponds? Because their argument is the retention ponds capture all the pollution. And they said, no, we don't. We don't test the water quality in those ponds. So that, I mean, it seems, my concern is that the more dredge and fill that we do, the more construction, the more road projects, the more developments, the more we're destroying the water quality by increasing the stormwater runoff. And it should seem that that should be something that your group would focus on. And I'll just finish by using a project on PGA, which was just built recently. There was in the last 3 or 4 years for the Scripps project, and it had been all forested, you know, land, and now they bulldozed everything, and when it rained, there was this, you know, muddy water just pouring off this into Lake Lagoon. So how do you work with that? Because this is obviously degrading water quality.
Well, as a division, just want to add one other thing. We do have people who do help provide training on the BMPs that are supposed to be implemented during. Yeah.
I've asked you a short-term question. Let me ask you a long-term question. Obviously, we all know that the Lake Okeechobee is suffering health-wise due to all the years of accumulated laissez-faire, let's say. Are there any long-term plans in place to deal with that accumulated set of poisons and nutrients? Do you know of any studies?
You can't use the whole SERP.
SERP ran away 10 years ago. I am not aware. I know in the past there has been efforts to dig up some of that muck and burn some of it, but I am not aware of any particular plans. Kenny, you're the attorney for the Everglades.
Well, the BMAP hopefully is trying to address
The BMAP.
Right. I mean, I know, are you asking specifically about dredging?
Well, no, I don't care what the solution is. I'm just wondering, is anyone considering the fact that as long as there's going to be dumping of the waters from there, and as long as we're still suffering the accumulation of nutrients and pesticides and herbicides and all that stuff, is there any thought, is there any investment in the science of discovering how we might mitigate that? Or are we, even if we, adjust our releases, we're still releasing, the 50, 75 years of accumulated poisons?
Right. I mean, I believe, there's generally we understand that there's this issue of reflux and so on and so forth. I know that there have been instances where the lake has been low and that they've done some hotspot dredging to try to address the exact issue. I mean, the reality, I don't know.
It's a big lake,
It's a
granted,
big
and it's
lake.
a lot of accumulation, granted.
Right.
But we're brilliant. We're scientists. We can find that engineer, that scientist, that biochemist who can say, you know what we haven't thought of? We haven't thought of this. I'm just hoping that there might be funding for some research like
So I
that.
think that there is, and even, Dave was mentioning like with the Lake Okeechobee regulation schedule, and that the Corps is trying to keep it low, and so there is a recognition that if you keep it low, you have better vegetative.
I understand, and there's a cost benefit with the killing of the plants if you lower the water too low, and I get all that. I understand, if you will, the real world issues, but I'm just wondering, long-term thinking.
Yeah,
maybe we can manage
Right.
some long-term thinking.
I think that, I mean,
Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan.
right.
That's what that is.
Right, and I think part of it is, it's like the same, there's the same issue in the Everglades. So in the Everglades, you know, the kind of the focus is we need to be delivering the right quality of water.
Right.
And there's a recognition that in the Everglades, in the sediment, that there has been a buildup of excess phosphorus. And so the plan is, well, first of all, we need to be delivering the right quality water, and so we're making a lot of progress on that end. Once we're delivering the right quality, then the focus will shift of, okay, for what's in the sediments, what are the ways, but until, to a certain extent, until we are controlling the excess that is getting into the water body, it's like,
I understand. Let me just make one other last comment, and then I'll be quiet. I think we can walk and chew gum. I think we can solve the immediate short-term issues while simultaneously sitting a different group of scientists with some appropriate funding to look at how we might either reclaim, or certainly dredging up and dumping it is not a solution. We know what's not a solution. I bet there's enough brain power out there that we can find the solution if there was funding for those kind of research projects. Just wanted to ask. Thank you.
All right, before we get him, how many more questions do we think we have? Question about when we move to comments. That sounds like singing, so.
Okay. We were talking about discharges and things like that. Let me change a little bit from the lake to move up to the northern end up where we're at in Indian River County in the Indian River Lagoon. 2016, I think that somebody had done a study and said, okay, the economic value of the lagoon is like $7.6 billion annually. With the increase in construction, increase in people, 1,000 people a day into Florida, sewers and septic tanks are getting work to a degree. You guys regulate the wastewater releases.
Well, not us personally.
Okay, not you personally, okay,
FDEP.
but FDEP. In our area, there is a large group that wish to use the reused water for irrigation on the barrier island. Okay? You guys regulate the numbers as to what's safe and what's not safe, but is it enforced? City of Vero Beach's numbers, as we are told, are through the ceiling as far as the nutrient load. The county is a little bit better, but it still doesn't fall into your parameters. Yet it's still being released onto the barrier island as a means to water their precious golf courses and other areas, and only to get washed off into either the lagoon or into the ocean. Last year, when we had 3 inches of rain on a given day in the late summer, fall, our beaches were closed for about 10 days because of E. coli bacteria. Where is it coming from? The septic tanks. Where is it coming from? Possibly the reused water. The question is, how do we resolve this? How do we say, no, you're not going to use reused water, yet the counties need to get rid of it?
The nutrients should just go away, that's the problem. So we got
Close down 95 and the turnpike until nobody can go south of it.
we have infrastructure that wasn't really designed to do the level of nutrient reduction I think we need to do. So certainly you've got diffuse on-site septic systems that either aren't maintained properly, weren't sited properly, or never worked properly, or even if they do work properly, can still contribute nutrients into the groundwater that can make its way into surface water. The point sources, so say you move people off septics onto sewer, that water still gets reused. You're talking about now you're putting an elevated level of nutrients, for certainly a barrier island with poor soils. That's not going to stay in place very well either. We're caught in between. I think long term, what we'll see is wastewater treatment facilities becoming resource recovery facilities. So it's conversion from just treating it as a waste or byproduct to to actually treating it as a resource that we want to conserve. So that would be water, nutrients that can be collected better, toxins that can be collected better for better either reuse as not as a toxin, but as a raw material, or to be disposed of in a more appropriate way. But we're kind of caught in that in between at the moment where our existing infrastructure doesn't do that level of treatment.
Well, while y'all are caught, the lagoon is dying. I mean, just plain and simple, I'm on it every day.
I understand. There's a lot of nutrients still going out, a lot of sources, still a lot of work still to be done. For sure.
But, you know, reuse, for a long time, local governments made a call between, should we go to advanced waste treatment or reuse? And because they're both expensive, I think eventually we're gonna have to move to doing both, A to the Q.
It all has to be advanced.
And because they do have to do high-level disinfection for any public access reuse. So I'd be kind of surprised if they're the source of your bacteria problems. But they definitely have nutrients in them, and then those nutrients need to be accounted for when they're applied. I mean, it's hard to know how much makes it to the surface water, but some does. Yes,
Okay, University of Florida, you mentioned that you're working with them, or what's your relationship with University of Florida first?
well, the reference I made before was to the fish consumption survey. And they have a survey center that does all sorts of surveys, including a variety for health.
Okay, so, all right, so that's not it. Agricultural runoff, okay, their
ISIS.
best practice management uses Roundup, glyphosate, and when we've done lectures in Stewart, I mean, we have a map that shows the greatest amount is used right around Lake Okeechobee, and the runoff is going into the lake, and that feeds the algae quite nicely. A lot of research has shown that.
There's nitrogen and phosphate.
And we need to look at that, because I don't know how you can go back and tell them to revise their best practice management, but it's also killing the citrus groves, and we've proved that, and a few other things too, that it's not necessary.
Yeah. So, yes, there are papers that show that nitrogen in glyphosate can be used by cyanobacteria as a nutrient source. I'm quite sure that's not the dominant nitrogen source for the cyanobacteria.
I'm not talking about nitrogen, I'm talking about phosphates, or what do you want to call it, phosphate?
Yeah,
That's
but again, that's not going to be the dominant source.
well,
There's plenty of
according
other
to my research, it's a
nutrient sources.
because it's coming in every day. It's a daily input, and if we don't stop the input, all the other things that you're doing isn't gonna make a difference in the lagoons and the inlets, everything, as we get the runoffs.
Yep, and then that goes back to the previous comment that it's like a bathtub. You gotta turn the faucet off and stop the bathtub from
Right,
overflowing
but I
before you
don't
deal with
see
what's in
where,
the
even if
bathtub.
you're doing the standards, we got another 3 years before, maybe the EPA will approve it before you can implement it, and then there's years after that where the implementation is happening, and we've got too many people that are sick and animals are dying. I've got 2 farms now that the animals are dying because of
So you
problems.
definitely raised this issue, so we need to do more research. I thought we looked into glyphosate, whether there were any
I have about,
You can't trust
It's
100 pounds.
it's not whether or
Come
not
on.
there's effects data for glyphosate, is there criterion been developed for it that we could implement?
well, according to there's been 3 lawsuits, the last one was $2 billion this last week, showing that the labeling is incorrect, that they've hidden the damages and the research, and I think it's time to stop using what's they've put in place in your face and start using what's really come to light.
You still have to have the body of data to derive
It's coming.
criterion from.
It's coming.
It's coming, exactly.
FWC just conducted some open workshops.
All right. I do want to make kind of an editorial comment. I do not want to discourage anyone from making any type of comment, but I want to make a kind of this subtle distinction that a lot of comments I've heard today, not just the comments, but the questions and the comments, they kind of touch into a lot of broader DEP things, and those are all fair. Anything you say about how things are implemented at DEP, we will take them and try and farm them out to the right person. But what is most helpful is like the comment you just had about the toxins. You've identified a standard that's out there and available, and you'd like us to implement. We may not adopt it, but to the extent that you know of standards that you think have been inadequate, like a nutrient standard that we set, that is still being attained, and yet there's algal bloom, just an example. Or the criteria that we didn't adopt yet. You know, those are what will particularly help inform this.
Or didn't enforce.
Or, well, that's
I
important.
ran into that.
But that's important, but I'm not sure the trauma review will be able to solve that problem.
No,
is
you
what
won't
I'm
be able to
saying.
solve it, but it is in fact.
So I'm just making that subtle distinction. Tell us all your concerns, but to the extent that you can focus on you know, standards and criteria that you think that we need to make better, you know, lower or higher, I guess, you know, depending on your perspective, or that we need to adopt at all. Because, you know, the human health criteria, we tried to adopt 40-something brand new ones that they're not on the books now because those got withdrawn. But so there's criteria out there that we want to hear about. So that's just a different distinction that I wanted to make. But I want to note that you guys are an impressive crowd. We've gone at this for 3 hours or plus, and
Can I just ask a question of things that are helpful? So is it helpful to you to mention monitoring seagrass? Would that be part of what you're looking for? Is that, or monitoring sedimentation, is that helpful to you?
I think it's worth noting to us, but if you could tie that to, hey, you really need a transparency criteria to protect these seagrass that you're monitoring. To link it to